You have questions? We have answers. Welcome to the Therapist Question Box with your host, Miss Lindsay Schiss.
Welcome back to another episode of the Therapist Question Box. We are here to answer your questions, so get online and ask us. We love to hear from our listeners, and it makes the conversation so rich, so ask away. Today I have with me John Bowers. He works at Therapy Utah as a therapist. He sees clients that are struggling with PTSD, scrupulosity, and sexual addiction. John, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes. John, tell us a little bit about yourself. You've been on the podcast, but it's been a little bit. So introduce yourself, please.
Yeah, I'm from Arizona, born and raised there in the desert outside of Mesa. I like to say I was raised in an art studio because my dad's a professional artist. So I've always
What
been
kind of
around.
artist?
He sculpts and paints.
Amazing.
So my chores growing up were a little unique.
Yeah, like what?
Like I would make plaster molds for sculptures, and I would bevel and stain plaques for reliefs and stretch canvas, that sort of thing.
So the rest of us were emptying the garbage and you're doing that.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Congratulations.
Yeah.
I love it.
Thank you.
You win.
Yeah.
You win on the chore awesomeness list. Okay. Very cool.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit more about you. You're a therapist at Therapy Utah. Give us a little more background.
Yeah. I have an arts background. I love printmaking. That's something I do frequently. And I'm a singer, and I have a great personality.
Dude, John.
I don't know what to say.
I love
Those introduction questions are hard enough, but now there's a camera and a microphone in my face.
Freestyle. Love
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Scripted.
That is awesome. I will say, with your art background, one time, do you remember we did an oil painting?
Yeah.
And John's painting blew all the rest of ours out of the water. So I will agree with you when you say you have an art background. You're pretty amazing. So, Well, thanks for being here and thanks for introducing yourself. This question is really interesting, and it sounds like someone who maybe has done some work around nervous system regulation. So here is the question. How do I support my nervous system when it feels like the world is on fire? I thought this was really interesting because this is who knows who this is from again, but just we live in a fast-paced world.
Right.
We live where our nervous systems are probably overstimulated a lot of the time.
Mm-hmm.
So as this listener is saying, the world is on fire, right? I'm curious your thoughts when you hear that. Let's start with just supporting your nervous system. What are ways let's first of all talk about the nervous system. Let's start with that. How would you describe the nervous system?
The nervous system is a great gift that our bodies give to us to help us to survive and to adapt and to meet our daily needs. It's incredible and intricate, and there are kind of subcategories of our nervous system, and these different parts of our nervous system play different roles. One will help us to fight or hide. Another will help us to rest and digest and repair. So it's very adaptive. And a lot of times people will kind of trash talk their nervous system because it feels like it's so
like overactive.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it can be torturous, which it's understandable that people feel that way in our day and age. Our minds are blasted with stimulation all the time. I don't think that our minds are really fit to handle this. Like, our brains did not evolve as quickly as technology did. And we're just blasted with music and media and catastrophic news from all over the world, and people's opinions and disasters and wars. And
constantly.
Yeah.
Constantly.
Whereas our ancestors is just their immediate day. Whatever was happening was what they knew about.
And the tribe around them, right? Or they're people that they engage with, not people across the world, right?
Yeah.
So I agree with you. I think we live in a world that doesn't necessarily support nervous system regulation.
Right.
Gabor Mate, I don't know if you're familiar with him, but he talks a lot about that we're not wired for this bombardment of stimulation all the time.
Right.
And it's problematic.
Yeah. And ironically, there are people and industries that take advantage of that and have designed our smartphones, our devices to be addictive. They help release a chemical in our brain called dopamine that gives us a sense of satisfaction or pleasure or attention. And so it's very intentional that we have a hard time putting away our screens that ironically are blasting us with this overstimulation.
It's absolutely intentional.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so putting them away also needs to be intentional.
Right.
And our desire for them, though, is not that we're necessarily broken or so addicted. It's actually, there's science behind it that is proven that there's a reason we want them. We go for that dopamine hit, right?
And we don't even realize it. Like I had an issue with my phone because it was like muscle memory.
Totally.
Like the second I was bored, my thumb knew exactly what to do, and I was presented with this feed of interesting things and these vibrant colors that make my brain think, ooh, berries, and I want to eat that.
Totally.
It's just like thinking about my ancestors, that's probably what it's harnessing. But I recently got a device that you physically have to be near it and tap your phone on it, and it will unlock certain apps for a little while. And it was kind of difficult at first, but then helping my nervous system recognize that I can handle being bored and I can just do the next thing I need to do instead of avoiding it and using my phone. It's been wonderful.
So did you do that because it was an extra step and it made your brain kind of get back online?
Yeah. Yeah. And I leave it at home. So while I'm out and about, while I'm at work, I'm not doom scrolling anymore. So
that is awesome.
It's very nice.
Good for you. I tried something that I think was helpful as well, but it's interesting because I only left it on my phone not very long. Yeah. Because it wasn't that enjoyable, but it's to turn your screen from colored to black and white.
Yeah.
Have you ever done that?
Yeah, I have.
And guess what? It's not that exciting to look at.
Right.
Yeah. Like you're like, this actually is not that fun. So I went right back to, okay.
Yeah.
I maybe kept it for a day and went, all right, I'm going back to color, right?
Right.
Maybe I need to get your device to help slow things down. So
something to think about.
Yeah, I think that's really important that we really go for our phones very quickly. And again, it's not necessarily that we're broken, we're addicted, even though again, there's dependency for sure. But they have actually proven that that the makers of these apps and these phones actually are very clear about what the human brain needs, and they program it into the devices. So that feels helpful that it's not necessarily, again, I'm not trying to shift blame, but I think it feels helpful to understand why there is such a pull towards our devices. Yeah. So let's go back to the nervous system. What are common signs that their nervous system is dysregulated, meaning it's just an overdrive, something's going wrong? How do we know that?
Great question, because you are supposed to be able to be stressed. Mm-hmm. You're supposed to be reactive in situations where you are in danger. Our brain is so wired for connection that sometimes it makes us feel like we're in danger in social situations when it's just we could be potentially embarrassed. So that'll creep in. But if you feel like you are constantly just walking on eggshells just with yourself, if you feel a lot of tension in your body, if your stomach is constantly sick, if you're getting a lot of headaches, if you're having a hard time sleeping, if you feel like your reactions to people are very sudden and aren't reflecting your values, but are just reflecting your inner state, those are all big signs that your body is kind of in overdrive.
Okay.
As far as your nervous system goes.
Good. So when I'm hearing that, I'm hearing that's like in overdrive. Yeah. Is there ever a nervous system like part that I would say like, okay, that's overdrive, it's up here. What about down below? Does our nervous system ever just kind of shut down and it's actually not mobilizing like we need it to?
Right. Yeah. So we would term that as hypoarousal, but essentially it's when your nervous system gives up and says, well, whatever's going to happen is going to happen, and I have no power. So I'm just going to shut down. And if I'm getting chased by a bear, I guess I'm dinner tonight. So that looks more like I'm just detached from reality. I'm detached from the conversation. I don't have interest in things. My muscle tone is you just kind of flop. You just sink.
Yeah.
And you don't have clear thinking. There's not a lot going on upstairs. You're just gone.
Okay. So that absolutely happens.
It does happen.
So this is what I think is really interesting, is to understand that like those states of hyper, you were talking about when your system's in overdrive, or you're reactionary, or things are, that you have maybe some headaches or heart racing, or you're the opposite in hypoarousal and you're kind of like lethargic and you're not mobilizing, right? But that they're important states to be in. Like the goal is not to never get into one of those states and ever always just be perfectly normal, and we have none of that happening. I think that's an important reminder that it's okay to get in both of those states, right?
Yeah.
To go above and our nervous system's really activated, or to go below and it's deactivated. That those are important states to be in. Why do you think it's important to have that reminder that we're not supposed to just be perfectly balanced all the time,
right?
That they're there for a reason.
Yeah. I mean, we think about mental health, and I should say a lot of people think, well, because I get anxious a lot, I'm mentally unwell, or I shouldn't have these kind of reactions. When, okay, if you're reacting in a way that does not reflect who you are and is hurting other people, yeah, that's a problem. But if your moods change, that means that you're a human being. The kind of the difference between healthy and unhealthy is, can I move in between these stages somewhat easily? And your nervous system is kind of like a muscular structure, in that you do need to practice regulating in order to get the kind of control that you want. And
when you say control, do you mean to go from the different states?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's not going to be as quick as you may hope it will be. And so something that I would just try to comfort listeners with is that if you're trying to get better, you get healthier, look for the small evidences that what you're doing makes a difference. Rather than, I'm going from ripping my hair out to I'm relaxing on a beach in Hawaii. It's not realistic.
Unfortunately.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
But if you can say, okay, I did some breathing exercises and I recognize that my shoulders were tensed up. So I'm going to let them sink. I'm going to kind of wiggle around to loosen up whatever is being flexed and tightened in my body. Can I tell a difference? Okay. Even if it's 5%, that's a little bit better. And I'm telling my nervous system that I'm safe. And it's listening a little bit.
I think that is so important, John, because part of it is saying, I have some control over this, right? I can do things that help manage this. Like, okay, I took a few deep breaths. Okay, my shoulders are actually not quite as hunched up and my heart is not racing quite like it was. Mm-hmm. That starts to feel like, okay, I'm not out of control. I have some control of this.
Right.
And that starts to feel better, right? Mm-hmm. So I appreciate that. Like, it doesn't need to be extreme, but look for these little things that are helpful, right? Mm-hmm. So what would you say are things that are helpful to go between those states in our nervous system?
Yeah. Well, therapy is kind of a double-edged sword, and we learn tools, and I think self-talk is very helpful. You could say, I talk to my anxiety and get curious with it and wonder, like, okay, what are you trying to do for me? Okay, you're trying to help me to not ruin my relationship with this person. So you're amping me up because this is really important. Okay, well, thank you for trying to help me out. I appreciate you being here.
You're thanking your nervous system.
Yeah. So
tell us about that really quickly. Because that's a totally new concept, I would imagine, for a lot of people. Because they're going, this is not helping me. Why am I thinking this?
Yeah. So just recognizing that this is a part of you that is trying to help you to achieve a goal or to keep you safe. And because we're so wired for connection, our social relationships are often the cause of our deepest anxieties. So it makes sense that your body would get amped up, and your mind and your body have a very strong connection. So some interventions that we have, sometimes they're mental, trying to control our physical symptoms of anxiety, and sometimes our bodies can help our brains, our minds to relax. So in this situation, like, you can talk to your anxiety, you can give it permission to relax, you can remind it that you've navigated these kind of difficult things before, that you're not going to make any kind of rash decisions that are going to ruin your relationships. So that's a good tool. And when someone their nervous system is always in overdrive, when it always feels like all the alarms are going off, all the sirens, it's probably not a result of self-talk issues. I think it's chances are it's more of, how can I change my relationship with my body and regulate differently?
Okay.
So use the positive self-talk, that's great. But it's hard to think yourself out of a way of living. You kind of have to live your way into a new way of thinking.
Oh, say that again.
Well, hopefully I can get it out. You can't
think yourself.
You can't think yourself out of a way of living. You have to live yourself out of a way of thinking.
Oh, I think that's so good. I remember reading something similar to that you can't think your way out of a feeling problem.
Yeah.
Like, it is, there's a feeling there, and there's often a reason for it, right? Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's trauma, sometimes it's childhood wounding. There's so many things why our body responds the way it does, but it's meant to keep us safe, right? So it's mobilizing, or it's shutting down. It's doing one or the other. And so it's trying to do a job for us to keep us safe. And I love that reminder of, you know what, instead of like, oh my gosh, my anxiety's back, here it comes again. Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. I just can't believe, or I'm feeling down and depressed, and oh my gosh, I don't have any motivation. Well, wait a minute. That's actually probably, not probably, trying to do a job for you.
Yeah.
It's trying to serve you somehow. So what is, by being down, maybe feeling some of that, like depression, maybe we can call it. Well, is that because your body needs to rest?
Yeah. It doesn't want to waste any more energy on this.
Yeah. Or is it it's amped up because it needs to do something. It needs to mobilize. It needs to act. So instead of being frustrated, to say, oh, wait a minute, what's my body trying to do? And how's it trying to help me? I think that's such a change of thought and a paradigm shift that it's really important.
Yeah. It's on your side.
Yes.
I think sometimes you have to parent it in a way, and that can look like doing things that you don't want to do, or it feels patronizing to take deep breaths right now.
Right.
But there are chemical reactions that occur inside your brain when you do certain behaviors that relieve your stress, or help you to focus, or give you motivation.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Yeah, you can help your mind through your body.
Love that. Help your mind through your body. So good. I actually was saying that to a client the other day, like, don't take for granted how walking can help, right? With regulation. Don't take for granted, like, just walking, and get your phone out and voice memo. Whatever's going on in your head, just get it out there and move. I mean, it's like one of the simplest things. And I think we go, oh, I mean, how's that really going to help? Actually, it really does help.
Yeah, it does.
Right? So sometimes, like you said, we kind of have to go, okay, breathing. That feels really basic. Like, turns out I do that all the time.
Yeah.
Not a big deal, right? Like, I know how to breathe. But like, to recognize, wait, there's some regulating things that can happen when I really focus on slowing my exhale, right? And really getting cognizant about that. And it doesn't need to be any major undertaking, but just some little things. So in addition to walking and breathing, what other things would you say would like help with that nervous system regulation?
Yeah, great question. So you have a huge nerve that goes from your brain to your heart and throughout your body, called the vagus nerve. And this nerve helps regulate your heart rate and a ton of other functions that we could spend hours on. But when we work with this nerve, we can also calm down or activate our nervous system depending on what we need. So one of the reasons walking is helpful is because it gives, and I won't dive too deep into it, but it stimulates one half of our body and then the other. And for some reason, when we stimulate one half of our body and then the other, it's very relaxing. So you can do that in a number of ways. You could pick two corners of a room and make your eyes go back and forth and try to just imagine your body relaxing. For some reason, it's super helpful. So try it. Or you can alternate. I'm going to cross my arms across my chest and tap my shoulders one at a time, alternating.
Butterfly taps.
Yeah. So great ways of doing that. You can also regulate your body through temperature. So if you're feeling super panicky, you can hold an ice cube. It's not going to hurt you. It may feel like it hurts, but it's going to get your attention on something. And for some reason, activating your body through temperature is super helpful. I've had a lot of people say that it's helpful to put their face in ice water, and there's a lot of science behind it, but for some reason it releases a lot of endorphins, which are nature's pain and stress relievers. So that's a great way. Alternatively, you can take a warm bath and just soothe all your muscles that are super tense. And when your muscles are getting less tense, your body thinks, okay, well, I can't be running from a bear right now.
Right.
So this feels right.
So would I, like, let's say the hot bath and the ice water, right? Face in the ice water. Am I doing face in the ice water when I need to amp up and go, okay? Or do I do that even when it's like, oh, I'm feeling stressed? Then I put my face in ice water.
The ice water, I would say is best for when you're feeling super stressed.
Okay.
Because it releases the chemicals that it releases is helpful for that.
Okay.
But taking a cold shower is great for...
And also feels like a punishment.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of those things.
Yeah.
Exercise is awesome and you need to be doing it.
Yeah.
I am not crazy about exercise.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Because we could spend an hour on that, but it's not comfortable, and it's vulnerable.
Yeah.
I'm like, am I wearing the right socks? What am I doing here? But yeah.
John, we all feel that way.
Gives your body something to do with the energy that it's exerting.
Yes.
So if it's pumping out adrenaline, it gives your body something to do with it. Adrenaline only lasts about 20 minutes in your body, but if you keep cycling through this anxiety, it can keep pushing it out. Yes. But if you give your body something to do with that energy, that's a great way of expelling it and giving you those happy chemicals.
I love that idea of the stress cycle, that we have to get through the stress cycle when our body's under stress, and not just letting it sit there, but saying, okay, what do I do to go through that stress cycle? And I think exercise is a perfect example of that. I was in the fitness industry for about 20 years. And I remember people would say, I taught spinning for a long time. I would say, I hate spinning. And I was like, well, you're crazy. But no, I'm just kidding. I would say, okay, that's fine. Hate spinning. What else do you like to do?
Right. You have to find something that you like.
Yes. Find something you like. Walk, run, cycle, row. I don't care what it is. Swim. But just do something that you like. I mean, to me, that's one of the biggest, even more than socks, John. I hate to tell you.
No. That was a funny example of why.
But really, like, if you can find something you like and that will help you move your body and get through that stress cycle, it's so beneficial.
Yes. And every movement counts. So even if it's low impact, yoga is an incredible way to release chemicals into your brain that are very helpful, very calming.
Yeah.
And focusing.
And I would say even micro steps, like, even parking farther away when you're going into the office building, or when you are, somewhere where you could take an elevator or take the stairs. Take the stairs, right? You're just moving. You're moving things and you're being deliberate about that. It's important. So it doesn't need to be this big overarching thing. Just being mindful of it, I think, is really important.
Yeah. Your body is meant to move. And when it does it doesn't. It starts getting a little panicky.
Yeah.
And eventually it'll give up. And then that results in other problems too. Motion is lotion, can reduce chronic pain. It can reduce anxiety, all sorts of things.
So true. I remember when I was studying for my exam, for my LCSW, just so many hours of studying. And finally, I don't know why I decided to do it, but I got a walking desk. And I remember thinking, like, okay, well, this will just be movement, because I am like so sick of sitting here studying. And I'm telling you, I retained so much better.
Good to know.
Yeah, I did. And I really do think it was that movement, like you talked about, that both sides of my brain was being activated while I was moving. And now I work on there as much as I can. I study on there. I do things because it has provided me, again, not just movement, but I really feel like my brain is activated so much more when I'm actually moving. So if you can do both things at once, if you can work and move, I mean, I work at the University of Utah, and I went into the library, and they had a whole section of walking desks. And I thought, oh my gosh, it's brilliant. It's something that I think a lot of people are realizing it's really beneficial.
Yeah.
So.
And we could go on for a long time about all these different things. There's a lot more that we can talk about.
Yeah. So with that, tell me, is there anything that, you brought up so many good points. Is there anything that you feel like that I haven't asked you or that we need to cover that feels really important?
Well, just as a rule of thumb, if you are not getting at least 7 hours of sleep, if you're not exercising regularly, if you're not...
Stop really quick. I think sleep is so important.
Yeah, I would say it's the number one intervention.
Number one.
For helping your nervous system.
Number one.
It's everything.
When I am meeting with clients, the first thing I talk about is their sleep. Because if you're not sleeping well, you're not eating well, and you're not exercising,
right,
like all these other things, it's going to be like, yeah, that's not going to work.
You don't have a fighting chance.
You don't have a fighting chance. So sleep is number one. Okay.
Yeah.
Go back.
Yeah. Also, human connection. A huge plus, if you have access to this, is if you can get a hug from someone when you're super dysregulated, you're releasing a chemical into your brain that is very comforting and helps you to feel safe and like you belong, that things are going to be okay. So physical touch is a great way to do that. If you have a dog or a cat, mammals tend to be the best for this, but connecting with them is a great way of releasing those as well. If you can find ways to stimulate that vagus nerve, it's going to be helpful to you in regulating your nervous system.
And remind us ways to stimulate that vagus nerve.
Yeah. So an easy way to do it is through singing. I think that's one of the reasons why I love singing so much.
You're a singer, John?
Yeah.
Really?
I'm addicted to the happy chemicals.
I love it.
But you can also hum. An easy way, and it's maybe not something that you do during a meeting, but if you can breathe deep and fill up your chest and your belly, you also have space in your back for air that people often don't harness. But if you take a deep breath and hum out something like VOO, so VOO, there's the resonance that happens within your throat is enough to activate that nerve.
Interesting.
So the tapping is also a way. Walking, being barefoot, you can gently stroke your arms or your hands, rub your hands together, or gently touch your face. Just tactile grounding practices.
Yeah.
A great way to do it.
Gosh, and those are easy.
Yeah.
Like you don't need to go anywhere or do anything.
Yeah, and you can do it subtly if you're in public. Like there's a lot of interventions that you can use.
I love that idea. That it doesn't have to be, you got to go to the yoga studio to get regulated. You actually can do it in the middle of a meeting. You could actually, tap both sides of your legs in the middle of a meeting, or, it really anywhere.
Yeah.
Right. I've actually had that experience where I was in a grocery store and was feeling like I was dysregulated, and I put my hands together and just started rubbing my thumb with my other thumb. Mm-hmm. I clasped my hands together, and it was interesting. I didn't realize I was doing it, but it was a form of trying to self-soothe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Mm-hmm. And it happens sometimes without us even knowing, but I really appreciate you giving us those extra tools.
Right. And if there is a way to incorporate more stillness into your life or less noise, then I would go for it. I come from a very political family, and I felt obligated, like it was who I was, that I need to be very well informed to be able to express my views and defend them. And I was consuming a ton of political media, and it was taking up a lot of my time, but it was also making me so stressed because there's so many things going on in the world and so many things to be upset about. But at the end of the day, I only have the ability to vote once a year, and you can only rally so much. But it got to the point where it was too much, and I decided that I was going to inform myself at election cycles, but beyond that, I was not going to blast myself with media. And that was a big sacrifice for me, but reducing the noise was so beneficial to me. And just with that overstimulation, if you can find ways to have more stillness in your life through meditation, journaling, listening to soft music, just give your body time to relax or to hear natural sounds.
Yeah.
It's probably an abrupt turn.
No, I think that's actually excellent. And I really think it's a reminder that you have to be proactive. Right. Like our world is going to bombard you.
Yeah.
It is going to bombard you with overstimulation. You do. Amen. Protect your peace. And we have to find ways to do it, right? Whether it's the device you talked about, whether it's the breathing, whether it's the black and white screen on your phone, or consuming less political media. Like we've got to do things to protect our peace. And I always tell people, you're going to actually spend time either on the proactive side or the reactive side.
Yeah.
You're going to spend time either doing it proactively or cleaning it up on the other end because there's a problem.
Yeah.
So be proactive about it and say, okay, I'm too overstimulated. It's too much. I want to know about the political happenings, but it's too much for me right now. So I'm backing off and this is what I can do.
Yeah.
Well, I really think it's a great reminder that, that you're not fragile, but you're attuned. And really, we have a world that is essentially out of tune.
Yeah.
And we're living in it. So we've got to find ways to live and thrive in that out of tune world. I just want to go through a couple of the points that you made that I think are really important. I love the idea and the reminder that we're supposed to be reactive to stress. Like this is our body's way of keeping us safe. So to remember that and to thank it for what it's doing for us. To recognize that these states of getting hyper aroused or like being kind of anxious or hypo or kind of being in a depressive state is normal. And that the goal is not to stay out of them, but just to move through them. I love that reminder. And again, recognize it's trying to keep you safe. I think that's such an important reminder, not that it's horrible. My nervous system's I'm always anxious. I'm always feeling down. No, it's trying to do a job for you, right? Sleep, exercise, human connection, animals, right? These are all ways that can be regulating to our nervous system. I love the reminder of our vagus nerve, that it goes from our brain to our heart. It's the largest nerve in our body, and that we can help regulate that. When that nerve is regulated, it helps us feel more at a place of peace by singing and humming. And I appreciated how you showed that reverberation so you can kind of feel that, right?
Yeah.
Excellent. Really appreciated, John. So many good insights and really valuable information as we're all trying to learn and navigate our nervous system in a world that really bombards us, right? It's not overreacting. Our nervous system is just often overburdened.
Yeah.
So we need to take the burdens away from it and be proactive about it. So
pick your battles
and protect your peace, right? Excellent. Well, we appreciate you tuning in to the Therapist Question Box. I hope this information was valuable to you. I think all of us are bombarded in a really loud world with so much stimulation that the information that John shared with us today can help not just us, but our families and those around us to help find ways to help regulate their nervous system. If you found this helpful, please like and rate and review. And as always, you can ask us a question on the Therapist Question Box or the Therapy Utah website. Until next time, take care.